Well, hello you gorgeous mother truckers, you and welcome to another video. So, the Labour government, those wonderful dictators, those raging hypocrites, those liars, those thieves, those cheats, those dictators, those traitors to the United Kingdom. Every time you think it can't get any more interesting or bad, they go and do something else quite amazing to just show what they're actually in this for. And in the case of Ms.Ali, who is the Homelessness Minister, she likes throwing out her tenants and then increasing the rent by £700 a month. That's right, the Homelessness Minister makes people homeless so she can get richer. Ms.Ali, who has spoken out against the unreasonable rent increases, relisted her four-bedroom townhouse in East London for £4,000 a month. That's right. Labour's Homelessness Minister, Ms.Ali, threw 4 tenants out of her East London townhouse before relisting the property at £700 a month more in rent, the iPaper can reveal. And this is, as you can see, from the iPaper. The landlord MP, who had previously spoken out against private renters being exploited and said the government will empower people to challenge unreasonable rent increases, does exactly the opposite. Again, this is no surprise from the Labour Party. The Labour's Renters' Rights Bill, which will become law next year, prohibits landlords who have ended a tenancy in order to sell the property from relisting it for a higher rent for at least 6 months after the tenants have moved out. So in other words, she's cashing in. You know, pretty much like Angela Rayner did, where she sold her council house and made a massive profit, but kept a bit and didn't pay any tax on it. But that's okay, because it's all right for them. I mean, it's very much like Keir Starmer taking out a legal ruling to protect his pension from any increases or money being ripped out of it when he retires. You see, it's all about them. The Labour government are in power to disrupt and destroy this country while making themselves richer. That's it. That's all they give a shit about. Nothing else. They don't care about you. They don't care about anyone. All they care about is making money. A source close to Ali said her tenants had been told that their tenancy would not be renewed and they were offered the chance to stay on a rolling contract before she put the house up for sale, and the property was only relisted for rent after she did not find a buyer. The spokesman for Ali says Ms.Ali takes her responsibility seriously and comply with all the relevant legal requirements before they bring in new ones so she couldn't cash in. Conservative Shadow Housing Secretary James Cleverly called Ali to consider her position, saying the allegations would be an example of the most extreme hypocrisy and should not have the job of Homelessness Minister. Well, let's be honest, most of them shouldn't have a job. In fact, none of them should have a job in politics whatsoever. They're just money-grabbing bastards. Last March, Ali rented out the 4-bedroom townhouse less than a mile from London's Olympic Park for £3,300 a month. Tenant Laura Jackson, a self-employed restaurant owner, one of the 4 people who rented the property, received an email in November telling her their lease would not be renewed and giving them 4 months to notice to leave, which of course is the required legal requirement. Just weeks after they left the property, Miss Jackson saw the house had been put back up for rent at £4,000 a month. So she gave, by the looks of it, the ability to somebody to buy a house a couple of weeks before she realised she could make more money. When the iPaper visited the property on Wednesday, new tenants confirmed they moved in 4 or 5 months ago and were paying around £4,000 a month. That's £4,000 a month times 4. It's a lot of money, isn't it? Ms. Jackson, 33, told the iPaper it's an absolute joke. Trying to get that much money from renters is extortion, but she's getting them because everybody's desperate. The property was managed on Ali's behalf by 2 letting agencies, Jack Barclay Estates and Avenue Lettings. At the time of ending the tenant's contract, the firms also attempted to charge Ali's tenants nearly £2,000 for the house to be repainted and £395 for professional cleaning. Most landlords do this because they're arseholes. They really are. Under the Tenants' Fees Act 2019, landlords are prohibited from charging their tenants for professional cleaning. They're also prohibited from charging tenants to repaint a home unless serious damage occurred. Minor scratches or scuffs to paint should be considered reasonable wear and tear according to the Act. Ms. Jackson said it was really stressful. It was so much money, nearly £500 each. The property was not clean when we moved in. It was ridiculous and unfair. But of course, it's all about making money, isn't it? They don't care about people. When Ms. Jackson told the agencies they knew their landlord was a Labour MP, the fees were mysteriously dropped, she said. I wonder why. If we hadn't known that the charges were unlawful, we would have had to pay them. It's exploitative. One of my daughters who moved, basically, and we might as well put it here. I'm going to do a separate video on it. Basically, they were told to move out because the landlord was selling the house, and the house was actually bought by Solihull Council, who did the house up and then moved in a Ukrainian family with kids in. The fact that my daughter has a severely autistic son who's non-verbal is irrelevant, and they couldn't give a shit. So it happens everywhere. As a Labour voter, well, I bet you're fucking not now. Ms. Jackson added, I just think it's morally wrong that MPs can be landlords. Agreed, especially in their own area. It's a conflict of interest. Everything they do is a conflict of interest. It's all about the money. The iPaper understands that Ali was told about the cleaning and repainting firms by her agency at this point and intervened to ensure the charges were cancelled. But that's because she knew they were illegal. And she didn't want that particular skeleton coming out of the closet, except for this. The property is currently listed for sale at $894,995, which is over $300,000 more than Ali paid for it in 2014, according to the Land Registry. Oh, what a surprise, going to make even more money. The townhouse near Ali's Bethnal Green and Stepney constituency was originally put up for sale at $914,995 last November before the price was reduced in February. The MP's registered interest shows it's one of two rental properties owned by Ali, who served as Minister for Homelessness since Labour's election win in July. Well, I wouldn't say win. They fell into power in July 2024, and I bet anyone who voted for them, which was not very many people, but if you did, how you feeling? And especially to those people who were Conservative voters who were sick and tired of the Conservatives, and I absolutely understand, but decided to stick it to them by voting Labour. How fucking good do you feel about yourselves now? The government had previously stated that the end of private rental contracts is one of the leading causes of homelessness. Ali said in March that the Renters' Rights Bill will tackle the root cause of homelessness, but now I'm doing it. I'm going to make sure that I'm going to cash in before it comes into power so I can't get screwed over. The bill, which is currently passing through Parliament, states landlords can only ask tenants to leave if there's been antisocial behaviour or they need to sell the property, or if the landlord or family member needs to move in. Yeah, you can see how that's going to be abused. The new legislation will also ban fixed-term tenancies like the ones Ali's tenants had and transition them into rolling contracts, which is wrong, because a rolling contract then gives the ability for you to get kicked out easier. Ben Twomey, the Chief Executive of Generation Rent, said these allegations are shocking. They're not really. And a wake-up call to the government to need to push ahead as quickly as possible to improve protections for renters. It's bad enough when any landlord turfs out their own tent to hike up the rent or tries their luck with unfair claims on the deposit. But the minister responsible for homelessness knows only too well the harm caused by this behaviour. But you forget, and this is, again, people seem to forget, they're not in it for you. They're not in it for anyone but themselves. It's all about themselves. They don't give a shit about you. The Ministry of Housing, Community and Local Government has declined on comment on Ali's case, but said the government will level the playing field between landlords and tenants, giving tenants greater security in their homes. What, by getting rid of fixed-term contracts and turning them into rolling contracts, which aren't. Yeah, and Jack Barclay Estates and Avenue Lettings did not comment. Are you shocked? No, I didn't think you would be, because neither am I. These vicious, disgusting things that are in charge, these traitors who now run the country, again and again and again and again, just show that they're only in it for themselves. They couldn't give a shit about you or I. And come October, that's going to be even more clearer, which we'll cover in another video. Any case, enough of that, I'm done. Ways to support the channel down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.